and gonna see if Shauna, can you hear us? I see you in the car. You want to get us going?
I do. My apologies, everyone. I'm actually heading back from Charlotte for my new job. So I pulled over at the Starbucks in Davidson County. So I will be in and out, likely off camera. So my apologies for that. I did want to just say thank you to everyone who has convened the task force groups, who have participated and given a lot of thought and intentionality. Really just so appreciate all the feedback. I'm really excited for us to ramp up. I know it's been quiet. We're getting ready to really skyrocket, I believe. And so thank you in advance for that and the work that you're getting ready to embark on. And know that we are going to do a much better job with communicating. So you will begin to receive updates from me. So it's going to come from my personal Gmail account. So please don't spam me, check your filters. And then, let me know about content and ways to improve what we're sending out. Does that seem fair, Nick?
Yeah, that sounds great. And a second, I'll pull up the slide I had that shows what the newsletter will address and the questions it'll answer. So we can look at that collectively in a second, but that's great.
That's good. And then the last thing I would say too is with me dropping in and off, Jay, if you wouldn't mind just assuming role as vice chair to make sure that everything goes smoothly, I would really appreciate that, because I don't want to sit in the parking lot until 7:30. So, I'd like to get back to Raleigh.
Fair enough. Thanks, Shauna. Drive safe. And thank you, Jay. Pass it straight over to Eric for the approval of minutes.
Hello, everyone. We're going to approve the minutes. The meeting minutes from our last meeting was on January 26th, and they were uploaded to our Google Drive for your review. So hopefully everyone saw Nick's email that we're transitioning from the SharePoint Microsoft system to the Google Drive system, since it's easier. But before we approve those minutes, are there any questions or concerns from the committee? Okay, if not, we're going to move forward with approving them. To simplify this, we're going to ask if there are any committee members who do not wish to approve the minutes. So if you do not wish to approve them, just let me know. And if not, then we're good and the minutes are approved. And thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, I am going to share my screen and quickly review the agenda for our meeting this evening. We are hoping to have, I know we've been talking about this, a really interactive meeting this evening. We have been pretty heavy information sharing presentation so far. We're excited to introduce a couple of activities to the committee. Am I showing screen here? Everybody good? Okay. We've approved the minutes. I'm going to ask Jay as vice chair to review our new communication newsletter and the contents. I'm going to give a quick update on our schedule for the year. We're going to move into our activities, do a quick reporting period from our task forces. Shauna mentioned that these kicked off this past month, and we're really excited about this work starting. I think all of the meetings, there's 3 task forces were successful in our first meetings, had different purposes and different things accomplished. And I'll let some of our fellow committee members speak to that here shortly. And then we have 2 activities this evening. We're going to spend some time brainstorming about our second phase of early park improvements. And Joey's spoken to some things that you may be seeing at the park today. We're excited to bring those and even more in the future, and want to get this group's feedback about what folks do at the park when they go there and what's missing right now. And then we're going to wrap up with what we're calling an engagement roundtable. This is an activity hosted by Trey. Trey's going to spend a little time talking about his role at the Conservancy and how the Conservancy is reaching out and engaging with the public. And then we're going to have a group breakout discussion about some perceptions about the park and the community, and acknowledging 2020 and the different challenges the community, and the park has faced, and where the park and the perception of the park stands with you all and what you're hearing in the community. So that's a high level. I'm going to pass it right over to Jay and to leave this leave this on the screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. So before we get started, I do want to take a second and acknowledge that as we talk about perceptions of our community, as we talk about our equity task force, I know that many of us, many of you have been following the George Floyd trial. I know that verdict was recently released. I know that some of these topics that we're going to be talking about today may be sensitive and may require folks to step away or need pause, and just want to make sure that you feel comfortable in and taking the time you need. I know there's a lot going on in the world outside of this committee today, and it's important that we acknowledge that and just understand that you have the ability and the opportunity to share and engage as much or as little as you need to today. So with that being said, I do want to note that tomorrow you'll get an email from Shauna. It's going to be kind of a ongoing communications platform that we were going to try to, as chairs, get information out to you, really focusing on 3 areas. What should I be communicating about the park? So from that regard, where are there things that as I am talking to my community that would be important for me to share and at high level? What should I be listening for? So as we're trying to gather feedback when you're out in your circles of influence, where are there opportunities for you to gather some things? Here are some areas that we are looking for feedback or insights or thoughts on. And then how can my community be involved in the park? And these are just opportunities for folks to engage with either park activities or events adjacent to park development. So there was some speaker series that other groups had put on. There are obviously things like yoga in the park that will be shared so that you can share that. We thought that this format would be a nice way to ensure that you all had the resources and the information at your fingertips to make actionable communications with your circles and effort as you see fit. So with that, I will keep that very brief. I know we have a meaty agenda, but we'll pause for questions or comments. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to Nick. So we'll just pause for about 15 seconds or so if anyone has any questions on any of that.
And I don't have the ability to see everyone's screens. If you have questions, as always, feel free to put it in the chat. Jay, if you wouldn't mind putting Shauna's email in there so they know what to look for.
Yeah.
Since it's coming from her personal and not a city email, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. I will send that to you all in the chat shortly.
Thanks, Jay. Okay. Last point from me, our committee schedule is outlined for the year. We have quarterly meetings. This is our spring full committee meeting. We have already scheduled our summer meeting in July and then our fall meeting in October. We've left the flexibility to add special meetings, and we are going to be adding a special meeting it's going to be scheduled for June 15th. This is going to be a continuation of our involvement with the Plaza and Play design project led by Grayson and MVVA. And we'll also spend some time giving updates on other projects of the park. So we won't give our full project updates included in today's meeting, but we will add that to our special meeting that we'll have in June. So just wanted to update folks. The meeting scheduler will be coming from me in the next couple of weeks. But if you want to save that date, similar evening time, that would be great. Okay, I am going to pass it back to Jay. And Jay, have you seen if Jackie's been able to join us yet?
I do not see her on the list. Jackie, are you on? If so, you can unmute and give our update. Otherwise, I'm happy to do so. Okay. So again, being mindful of today, I do want to acknowledge the wonderful work of our extremely passionate equity committee. Our plan moving forward is hopefully you won't be hearing from me as much, and someone different from the committee will be reporting out our committee updates each time to you all, so that you can really engage with us and figure out what we're doing. But really, within the equity committee, we really explored the park equity framework that was developed and looked at what are our dimensions of equity and how do we work within those, and then came up with a plan to really over the next year, what do we want to accomplish, given that this is a 12-month window, and it's really what is our vision and definition for equity? How are we using that lens to make decisions? How are we then applying that vision and direction and decision of equity to the elements of park development? So there are about 8 different elements that have been identified already by the city that require exploration. And so within each of those elements, what are the components of equity that we as the committee feel should be included, so that we can bring that back to larger audiences and get feedback? And then lastly, how do we evaluate that process and ensure that the equity work is moving forward and is not just living with that committee, but is a way of being in every committee. So when we approach new park design or partnerships. What is the equity lens and the definition and the way we go about that? So really, right now, we're really focusing in on what are our guardrails, where is our ability to influence and do work, and what does that look like? And particularly, how do we ensure that equity is a priority in all aspects of this park?
Thank you, Jay. I'm going to pass it straight off to Eric to give the debrief for the Park Partnerships Group.
All right, so we had a meeting with the Park Partnership Group. We also kind of forgot to assign it to someone to present, so I'll be presenting it today, but we'll be rotating as well. The most important things we were talking about were how partnerships relate to the long-term health of the park, profit versus nonprofit partners, long-term versus short-term partners. We had great ideas about including local educational institutions, as well as utilizing the historical buildings for long-term partnerships in order to keep the buildings healthy as well. We want to partner with the mental health community, especially with the background of the park. And we want to attract national partners and players to Raleigh and Dix Park, utilizing this partnership program that we're going to create. So we have to create that framework. How do we grade partnerships in the overall framework of what our goals are and whether these partnerships accomplish these goals? And we mostly used these case studies that we were reading about certain parks in the country in order to figure out what other people have been doing. So for the next steps, we're trying to find a panel of experts to hear from about the Governor's Island Park in New York, the Presidio Park in California, and there was one more park as well, but I'm not sure what it was, that we want to hear about as well before we move forward with a more definitive framework. So it was more upper level stuff, but it was all important things to talk about how we want to create partnerships and how we want to move forward with these new partners.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. The point I want to make here is we will be reporting out from these task force at our quarterly meetings. We want to be really transparent about how these groups are working, making sure the full committee, even if you're not sitting on this task force, is aware. But also feel free at any time, all the materials that are being shared and presented are in our shared folder. So if you're interested and you want to read, you want to see some of the case studies that Eric was just talking about, read some of the work to date on equity planning for the park. That's all there for y'all to read, and we'd love for any comments or any concerns or items you'd like to bring to us or the committee leadership. So I'm going to pass it off to Joey, and Joey, I have some slides for you here, so just let me know when you're ready to move forward, and we're hopefully going to get into our first activity.
Yeah, Nick, you can go ahead and pull those slides up, because a lot of what we talked about in the early park improvements task force, we're going to cover with the entire committee tonight. So we'll kind of go over those pieces as well. So the early park improvement task force talked a lot about kind of what's going on with early park improvements in the park now, and some ideas of what we need to address with phase 2 of early park improvements. And I want to just take the opportunity to catch the full committee up on where we are with early park improvements in the park. But I first want to start with kind of, when we talk about early park improvements, what do we mean by that term early park improvement? What is that? So an early park improvement is really, like you see on the slide, a physical park amenity that we can implement now to support and enhance the park's visitor experience. So we all know today the site exists as the site exists. So there are, beautiful green spaces. There are plenty of parking, all of those things. But when you go to other parks, we know that, and we have all identified different amenities that would be really helpful to kind of enhance the visitor's experience when they visit the park. Things as simple as benches. If I'm at the park, where can I sit? Or a picnic table. I want to meet with a small group or my family or friends. Where can we all kind of sit in the same area to picnic together? Another aspect that, if you've been to the park recently, that you've probably noticed that we've added is signage. So as we all know, Dix Park is 309 acres, and we hear from the public all the time that they get on the property and they're like, where am I? Where do I go? And even us as staff, sometimes we're guilty of calling a field or an area something that the public has no idea what it means. So we really stressed about really working on signage, and Lauren Danforth on our team really kind of headed up that signage project. And bike racks. We have so many folks riding bikes to the park. Do we have places that they can secure their bikes when they're then getting on foot and visiting the space? So when you really think about, and we refer to this term of early park improvements, think about the physical amenities, that are important to the park visitor to really enhance that experience, enhance that visit to them to the park. So what I'd like to do, Nick, you can go to the next slide, is give some updates, because we as staff have been working behind the scenes over the last year on what we'll call phase 1 early park improvements. So staff came together and really identified things that we felt from an amenity standpoint we wanted to enhance from the visitor's experience, really listening to feedback from the public. When people were going to the park, what weren't they finding? What were they hoping to find from an amenity aspect that they weren't seeing? So as from that feedback and from staff's conversations, we identified these different early park improvements. So the first big one that we identified was establishing 2 what we call picnic rooms. Basically areas, if you're coming to the park with family, with friends, for a birthday party, whatever that might be, an area that you can go and gather. So we're establishing 2 of those in the park now. And if you've been in the park recently, you may have seen some of the construction from the photos that I have there on the right. So those 2 picnic rooms are called the Magnolia Room and the Oak Room, and really named after the trees that are in those areas. The Magnolia Room is right near the sunflower field, just kind of giving some very kind of common destinations in the park. And the Oak Room is right in front of the old NC State Daycare, the building that we call the Grand Building now, near the Lake Wheeler side of the property. So you will see in those areas these different types of amenities listed, different picnic tables and shade structures. The yellow kind of framing on the right side is framing for a shade structure that'll go up over a grouping of picnic tables. And that picture is actually a little old, where that photo is now, the shade structure is up. So you'll see that if you ride through the park. We are putting up a play feature in each of the picnic rooms. You'll see the photo on the bottom of the swing frame for the Magnolia Room. And those play features will have accessible paths to them as well for accessibility standpoints. Each of the picnic areas will also have a new water fountain, just for more water access. And they'll also have those other things that you're looking for when you're coming out with a group and wanting to gather to picnic or to grill, whatever it is. They'll have grills, we'll have trash cans, we'll have benches, those aspects. So you'll see those picnic rooms be established, and we hope that those will be done here in the next few weeks. The other early park improvements that we've been working on, and I mentioned before, the first one that we've received so much positive feedback on from the community is the new park signage that has went in the park. And like I said, Lauren on our team led that project. And you can see an image, if you haven't seen the signage in the park yet, you can see a photo of the signage there. One of the big aspects that we always get feedback on, like I mentioned before, is how do I get to different destinations in the park? So the signage really has started to help with that. Also, different improvements you'll see around the park are new swinging and stationary benches on the big field. You'll see in the bottom a picture of some park visitors that I grabbed one day and asked them if I could use. I'm enjoying those new swinging benches. There are 6 swinging benches and 9 stationary benches that have been installed on the big field. There's also a shade structure going on the big field as well over the concrete picnic tables that are there. One of the hidden aspects, one of the new aspects that we also installed in the tree grove that divides the big field and what's called Williams Field, where we do yoga and other programs, is a new hammock grove. You can see a picture of the new hammocks there. And those have been very popular since we've installed them. We've seen lots of park visitors enjoying those. And I mentioned bike racks earlier as well, just to provide that opportunity for folks that are biking to the park to be able to secure their bike and then enjoy all the vast space and activities that folks do at Dix Park. You can go to the next one, Nick. So that's that information of kind of where we are right now on phase 1 early park improvements. The majority of those aspects that we've listed are complete or really close to being complete. The picnic areas are kind of the last 2 projects that we hope to have complete here within the next few weeks to hopefully the most a month. So now, as we're wrapping up phase 1 projects, we are starting to think about phase 2. So what is the opportunity? What are the next steps that we want to take from an early park improvement aspect that we can do today to enhance the visitor's experience? And as we talk about these questions that I'm going to ask you to talk about in the breakout rooms in a minute, you'll see the word in all 3 questions, the word today, because I really want you to think about things that we can do right now today that would really enhance that visitor experience. So in a moment, Nick will give instructions on how you'll be breaking out into these small breakout rooms to have these discussions. And I would ask that you kind of talk about and answer these 3 questions. What draws visitors to Dix Park today? So as the park exists today, why are people coming? What is drawing the community folks to come and visit Dix Park? And then once they're at the park, what do people do? So what do you think people do when they visit Dix Park? What is the actual activities that they're doing? or those kind of pieces that they're doing when they come. And then thinking about what draws people to Dix Park and what they're doing, how does that translate to what Dix Park needs to do today to enhance the visitor experience? So what does Dix Park need today to enhance that visitor experience? So this is going to help guide the conversation in the early park improvement task force, and then back to the larger committee as we continue to talk about what needs to be on this list of phase 2 early park improvements. Our goal would be to take this feedback and to start to build a list of what are things that we can do during this phase 2. So this feedback will be really helpful. The task force did a very similar activity in our task force meeting, got some really great feedback from that. And I can't wait to see what feedback comes out of the small group conversations as well. Nick, I'll kick it back over to you for instructions.
All right, let's see how this works. I'm gonna open the rooms. I'm hoping it'll filter y'all in there. Each room should have a facilitator who has these questions and some instructions. And then we'll gather back together at about 6:50. So if you're still stuck in the lobby with me, we will figure it out together. Everyone else can go ahead and get started. Hey, good evening, folks. I am going to step into this room. I may bounce in and out to check on the other rooms, but I feel like this is a group that can handle a conversation without me poking and prodding. I'm going to go ahead and drop the prompts in the chat so we have them in case I leave. But the first one we want to get started with is in reminder of time. We have about 25 minutes and 3 questions, so maybe 5 to 8 minutes each for each question would be great. What draws visitors to Dix Park today is the first question. And another thing I want to just emphasize in terms of early park improvements is there are immediate ways that we can improve the visitor experience. We have these awesome plans for the Plaza and Play for our larger projects, and we're well aware of the timelines on those. So for the next 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, what can we be doing at the park to improve the visitor experience until we get those larger projects in place? So let's start off with what draws visitors to Dix Park today, and if anyone feels led to start the discussion.
Well, what I think is, I think everyone has different reasons, honestly. I think more people I talk to that are in Dix just have kind of different aspects that they like about it, whether it's the open spaces, it's like getting amongst the trees, it's being with their dog. I think there's a lot of experiences there. And I thought one thing is kind of interesting. It's not unlike what you see when people go to a city. And so I know like there's some path making apps that are out there. There's one called Likeways, another one's like that, saying, hey, when I go to Manhattan, here's the walk I take. I go to this pizza place, I go here, I go there, and you identify a path of 3 or 4 things that you really like. I wondered if we can kind of open source this question into a way of like, what do you like to do when you walk through, and invite the public to do their own path making journey. And then you can say, hey man, I did Bill Padgett's walk, and that walk is awesome. And I love playing with the dogs in that big field, and I love doing, those specific things. Or maybe someone else's, walk, like loves watching those airplanes flying overhead, the little toy airplanes. Or so I'm just wondering, maybe this could be an interesting way is to find out from the public what they like in a way that you could trace someone's likes and dislikes, and maybe in that way identify opportunity. And
sorry guys, I jumped into, sorry Ali, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and it's basically.
Cecilia, if you want to jump in and say anything.
Yeah, I have been thinking, and for me, it's very useful when you have like a loop and you know how many miles the loop has. And also around the loop, have a small station with basic workout stuff doing, and with pictures or with a signage that say, "Here, in this stop you can do push-up. In this stop you can do this," and also
seem to be quite a bit of what people have participated in, especially in the last couple of months at the park.
Yeah, I think Nick helped me remember. I think we saw 8,000 disc golf visitors over the month and a half the course was open from our little trail counter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty huge. Other thoughts on what people are doing, what's drawing people to
design? It was built during COVID.
For those, yeah. I just meant in addition to that, if out in the world or something you just might see. Yeah.
Joey mentioned the Conservation Corps that will be coming this summer, and Kate mentioned that.
I know that our team has been working pretty hard on making plans for where that a new dog park can go prior to Plaza and Play starting construction. We still have over a year left in the design process for Plaza Play, so we have some time before construction starts for Plaza Play, and there is work being done on where the new dog park will be. We're just not quite ready to announce it. We've got to work on some more logistics, but please have confidence in us that we're working on it. And the goal is to meet the things that people love about the dog park as it is now, and to have the new site open before construction starts for Plaza Play.
Okay. Thanks, Grayson. The next person on the list is Ebony Haywood. If you'd want to add anything to any of the prompts. Okay. If you want to add something later, just jump back in. There's only, I think, 10 of us or less in the room, so it's not as crazy as like the big things we usually do. But Erica, would you like to add anything?
I'm just kind of here taking notes, but
I'd like to hear what you have to say, Erica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I can. Normally I like keep my video and stuff off so that people won't see me like typing. Hi everybody. If you don't know, I take notes at these meetings. So I'm not like an official like community person, but I just do all the meeting minutes and everything. I really like the new park improvements that have been already completed. Like the hammocks are amazing. And the like other like the benches and everything. To be honest, I haven't put a lot of thought into like what it could come next. But I think definitely like I don't know how you would like classify this, but like having spaces that are like the multi-use spaces, basically like spaces where you can have small gatherings with people. It can be like that picnic style, but then like you can, walk just a little bit away and have like a game that you're playing, or I know like we go to Dix a lot, just like as a general gathering space, especially during COVID, doing like people will bring soccer balls or frisbees, and we'll have that time where we can like sit and be together and talk, but then also like having that flexibility to have activities and stuff.
I think that's an important point, Erica, on the proximity of things. In that it's such a large area that, let's say we have these two rooms, the Oak Room and the Magnolia Room, they may be so far away that you won't do both, right? So maybe in this next phase, we could look at similar areas, right? We have some options. We can either find new areas and create new things, or we could build on some of the areas we already have so that folks don't have to walk far distances across campus to get something new, that there will be swings, there will be shade. And that was kind of the idea with these rooms, it's co-locating of things. But I think that's an important point that we need to think, that we'll have this next task force think through, is the distance between everything and being realistic about what folks are going to be willing to do to go between different areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about attractions as well. I mean, I think the disc golf course was such a success that there really should be a permanent disc golf course there, because there's just so much room. And, you know, I play at Crabtree Park in Durham a lot, and it's a very tight course, but people love it. So I just think there's an opportunity there. Like you said before about games and activities, I know like Cary's Downtown Park, they put out cornhole, they put out bocce ball. So, I mean, that's more labor intensive. Someone has to go set it up and take it down, but that could be a rotating thing around the rooms to kind of bring people in. And then just going back to just bringing more, because I think the park itself has got a very good handle on picnicking, on walking, on just enjoying the space. But I think it could use a little more benefit in the activity section, or the, you know, physical activity. Like I love that. Like you can use the existing asphalt and the existing walkways to create a mile loop with markers for people to exercise with, as well as with, you know, some sort of exercise equipment. You know, it's hard because you don't want to put too much stuff down that's going to be torn down later. So you're trying to use what's existing. So everything that we're trying to promote is stuff that we can kind of reutilize the stuff that's there.
You know, on the spur of the moment, if I wanted to drop by the park, is there a place to pick up some food that's park easy, either just to pick up and eat quickly, or to bring over to cook out, or is it you have to drive, or are you on your own as far as picking up something?
Yeah, that's a great question. The obvious answer is the farmer's market is right there, and that would be a great place to pick something out. The reality of how to get from the farmer's market to the park is you're most likely going to have to drive, and that's something that we do recognize. We have to make a connection there, because it's the perfect partner for a park, right, to have the farmer's market. Danny, I think if you're saying food options in the park, or close, I guess in the park probably. I think if you have any specific ideas there, I think that's a great idea. Again, the size of the space. When you come to Dix Park, you're going to stay there for a while, most likely, because you're driving, and having the full experience that will allow you to extend your stay, food, restroom, stuff that makes folks comfortable is a great idea. So are you thinking like a food truck type thing? Or are you thinking of more like grills? What are you thinking food wise?
At the moment, I mean, sometimes you really, you know, driving around Raleigh, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go over to the park. So do I need to go by Whole Foods to pick up something, or do I need to go somewhere else? And some places have foods that you can just go and pick up easily and go over. Yeah. But if I wanted a steak, I mean, well, you know, I don't know. It shouldn't be that complicated, because people go out all the time. This is not a new experience. Right. But, and then what about bugs? Are there any bugs around in the walking trails that someone should be aware of, or chiggers? Do you have chiggers or red bugs or
fire ants? We have pretty pervasive fire ants in different parts of our fields, but I haven't heard of many other things that are outside of the norm.
I mean, going back to sorry, you go for it.
This is Diane. I do see things pop up every once in a while on the dog park site about like a poisonous mushroom or something like that. But nothing that I would worry about. Can I ask another question about the dog park?
Of course.
Okay, great. Rayson, thank you so much for that update. I just want to sort of clarify in my own mind. So when you say all the best features of the current temporary park, and I know it's a temporary, and there'll be another temporary before, you know, we find a good spot for it. So are you talking about large grass, not mulch, shade, all of those things that just draw people from all over to that park, to that dog park?
Yes. So while I cannot guarantee that we will be able to meet everything that is so amazing about the existing site for the dog park, we have we have done some engagement around what people love about it. We have heard that it's so big and that there is grass, our big ones. So we are looking for, and of course, as you mentioned, shade. We hope to find this next spot to meet those things, and we're doing the best that we can with what areas we have.
Great. Because I know in the master plan, it talks about 3 smaller parks with a total of 1.6 acres, which is really about the size of the half that is being used as a temporary park now. So will there be space carved out somewhere for a large park ultimately?
So I guess one thing to acknowledge with the master plan and the details of how big things are or how many things there are, it's very conceptual. So a master plan that is at 300 acres is going to be more conceptual than a master plan for a neighborhood park, for instance. Also, given that it's going to take us so many years to implement our master plan and the full build out. So there are things with our master plan as we implement it that I think will be adjusted because there are exactly 3 in the master plan, and they, you know, if you measure them out, they come to that certain acreage. Does not mean that that's exactly what it's going to be moving forward. As you see, I think through evidence of this meeting here is we are continuing to engage with the public and listen to what people want. And things will shift and evolve as the master plan, or I should say, as the park gets built out.
That's fantastic. I was actually involved. I moved here from Philadelphia a couple years ago and was involved in the master plan for their waterfront, the Delaware River there, which is a 35-year plan.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But really exciting to see stuff actually happening.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for all of this.
Thank you.
So we got about 10 minutes. I want to make sure folks have time to share some. Eric, I'm not sure if you read all 3 of the questions, if we want to continue on that. Or if folks have other comments that have come up or questions, it's a good time to share these. Is anyone in the Early Park Improvements Task Force here? Danny or Cecilia, are y'all on that? Okay. So we're going to be sharing this feedback with that group, and they're going to continue this discussion. But just hoping to capture whatever we're hearing. You go to the park, you would be able to stay at the park longer, or you'd go more frequently if this was here. So, you know, that's the general ideas. Any other questions or comments, or we can ask a couple other questions of y'all.
I do have one comment about what would make me stay longer at the park.
Mm-hmm.
A restroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to the dog park. I get every day, every other day, and I leave when I have to pee.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also, this is Cecilia. I would like to share with the Latino community that we have around. We work at least with 50 people now, and I would love to have a basic information and that kind of question that you are asking to share with them and have the input. Because I just remember a couple of years ago, the City of Raleigh asked us to move from our festival from Fayetteville Street, and we were looking for another locations.
Yeah.
And Dix Park was for the location that they offered us, but it didn't have the infrastructure to do everything that we want to do. But also we realized that people don't know about Dix Park. I mean, the Latino community don't know about Dix Park. There is no Latino living around Dix Park. And also there is no bus stop nearby that they can walk through. I'm sure having the new Catholic Cathedral over there will help to bring more Latino people to the neighborhood, but it's not much Latino neighborhood around. And I don't see that I don't want to talk about the whole Latino community in downtown in Raleigh, But most of the people that we work with, I'm sure they have no idea about this park and what they offer and what they're doing. So it will help me to bring more information to this group if I have something. Write it down, basic information, couple of questions, Google document, whatever you think will be useful to share at least with the 40, 50 people that we're working right now to see what they say.
Yeah, I love that idea. And that would be super easy to put together, I think too, just because it's just, these are pretty straightforward questions. So Cecilia, how about we connect sometime this week or next week and talk through how to make that useful for you?
Sure. And just to clarify, I have to read Spanish.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you need help with the translation, I would love to help.
Yes, absolutely. Of course.
Would you have anything like, I guess it's too much to expect a driving range or something like that, or putt-putt activities, or some other kind of individual pursuits of sport, you know? I mean, just to be outside and doing something where you don't have a partner with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, individual activities. I think my reaction to that, Danny, is we're not interested in a long-term establishment of a driving range at the park, right? But what we do love to do is we love to do these kind of pop-up temporary, similar that we did to the disc golf course. And a pop-up putt-putt course would be so much fun, and people would absolutely love that. So these kind of pop-up activities, especially when we're thinking about the time frame, short to midterm activities that can be there for a month or a couple months, it changes, it keeps the excitement up, I think is an excellent idea.
I just think a lot of these issues come back to the fact there's not a central draw to the park. It's kind of very spread out, and unless there's a special event like that brunchy, jazzy brunch kind of thing going on, there's never going to be enough foot traffic for food trucks to be there regularly. So I think, you know, if there's a way, there's probably not early park improvement, but once you start knocking buildings down, and if there's concrete pads to create some sort of like a roller rink, like just something that brings a lot of people together to one spot, and then there's a consistent foot traffic, and there's an area where food trucks know they can sell their food, and that would just bring a lot of life to the park instead of having it all kind of spread out and not really knowing what's going on at any given time.
Yep.
Danny, I can't hear what you said.
You know, up in the mountains, they have a lot more lightning bugs than around here from some times of the year. And I didn't know if there's any way of seeding those kinds of bugs just to create an evening atmosphere, you know, sort of, I don't know. That's too much and too far, but.
Danny, I just had a conversation with Kate and someone else about the potential for us to have something around lightning bugs and how magical it can be when there's so many of them. So that's a really fun idea that it's good to hear that you said that.
I guess we're going to have bird figures around, maybe to draw different kinds of birds in.
I mean, yeah, I love the idea of like partnering with like Bee Downtown and bringing like pollinators and bees and stuff to the park as well. We actually tried to create firefly habitat at our farm because it's called Firefly Farms. But when we did a lot of research, we realized that firefly habitat is very similar to mosquito habitat, like standing water. So it's a bit of a catch-22 a little bit there.
Okay, we got about 2 more minutes. Ebony, it sounds like you're maybe chat only. Glad you're here. No pressure to turn your camera on.
Yeah,
Erica,
three-year-old that's in the background, so it's easier not to do video. But I'm here.
Great. Anything on your side that you'd like to share with the group in the last couple minutes?
Nothing specifically. I mean, I like a lot of the ideas that were shared, and you know, I think that right what you guys were saying with things being so spread out, to have a centralized thing. You know, when somebody said something about the bathrooms and infrastructure, I think, you know, those are some of the challenges we've all recognized. So, you know, I'm in alignment with some of the ideas, like you're saying just now, the putt-putt golf and different things. So, you know, just making things accessible to people, and you know, being able to bring people in, but also considering all the challenges and other obstacles people have to face to make sure it's a good experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got about 30 seconds here, so maybe I'll close this out with the final thought that the tough thing for us is the fun things, the putt-putt course, the lightning bugs are maybe a lot cheaper than restrooms, but what we really might need for the long-term success is some water fountains and some restrooms, and then we can build off of that. So thanks for everyone's time here. We're gonna go back to the main room, and we have one more activity.
Okay.
All right. Hey, folks. Hope your conversations did not get cut off midstream of thought, which happens to me every time I'm in a breakout room. We're going to move over to Trey. I'm going to ask Trey to introduce our second activity of the evening. Trey, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm right here. Let me get myself together. Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us today. So the next breakout room is going to be about community engagement. Before I go into community engagement, I wanted to give a quick talk about what we've been experiencing and hearing on the ground. Sorry, a bunch of movement on the screen. I was waiting for that. But so I wanted to talk to y'all about what I've been hearing on the ground and how the Conservancy has been working with the city to basically address some of those things. As we move into the future of the park and the idea of as it grows, we want to make sure we are truly making a park for everyone. And one of the things we hear in the park, that we have people that love and support Dix Park and attend it every day and attend all our programming, but there are some people who have some misconceptions about the park. There are some people who are hesitant on supporting the park, and some of those issues deal with the deep history of the land and of being a plantation, a former mental health hospital, and hunting gathering space for Native Americans. And some people are upset about wanting to preserve the land or what it is. Some people really want to see new activations in the park. Some people really want history preserved. And I think if we look back at a lot of our master planning, we try to strike a balance of that. And even this year, we started the Plaza and Play planning that is going to start adding new activations for people who want to see a nice plaza area added in. And we also have the creek restoration, beginning of the research for the creek restoration. And then also we just restored the chapel that was once part of the hospital. And I think it really satisfies a lot of people's need, what a lot of people will like to see develop in a park, and is a very good example of what we're going to do for the future of the park. And so a lot of us in the Conservancy have been attending community meetings. Some of the former CHCs still meet, that we still join in on and really inform them on what's going on at the park. We've also found ways to highlight some of these things, like we have an upcoming chapel video coming up. We also hosted a parkside conversations on the Plaza and Play, and then we plan on doing more stuff on the creek. Another thing that's been focused on some of our partnerships is healing the land of its history and acknowledging the history of the park by acknowledging that it was once a plantation, and acknowledging that it was once land that was used by Native Americans, and finding ways that we could use the land as a place for healing and teaching these moments in history to hope, inspire, and deconstruct it for the future. One of those ways we did that was through the land blessing that we partnered up with the Triangle Native American Society. We've been talking about with NAMI on ways that we can provide resources and teaching on mental health And we're also working with other groups to really deconstruct the conversation of a land that's once a plantation and how we can use it as a place of healing for all people. So we're working on a lot of ways to address all these concerns and really truly become stewards of making it a park for everyone. And in this next breakout room, what I would really like to get from everybody would be, what are you hearing in your communities? The team at the Conservancy in the city are only so many people, a small group that can only get out to so many places. And what's so great about having you all here, that you all come from different backgrounds, different communities, different areas, and can understand who utilizes the park the most and what do they love about the park the most, but also what do they want to see more from us and how we can support that through our community engagement. So in these next breakout rooms, you'll be asked questions like, what is the biggest endorsement you see about the park and what ways we can enhance that experience or that connection with the park. And we're going to take notes, and hopefully it'll help guide a lot of the work that we do in the future. So I'm ready, Nick, whenever you are.
All right, let's do it. We're dropping in the same breakout rooms, so the same folks from last time. And then we'll gather back at about 6:25, so about 30 minutes to close out the session. All right, good luck, have fun.
Relationship with Dix Park Conservancy. So if anyone wants to talk about what they've heard in the community about those things, you can please share.
Yeah, and I want to add to that real quick, Eric. We kind of talked about where this discussion could go, and we wanted to hear a little bit both about the good things that's happening at the park, but also the relationship with the park and the Conservancy. And one of the things that we want to make sure that the Conservancy wants to make sure that they do is that the community is aware of their role in the park process and can be engaging directly with them, along with engaging with the city. And we're partners in all of our projects and engagement and things that we do, but understanding both about the perception of the park in general, but about the perception of the city's role, of the Conservancy's role in the process, or something that we're hoping to learn more about from y'all.
So is the chapel the only building that would be accessible to the public to use for any function?
At this point, yes. There's only about 10 or 12 buildings that the city has control of on the campus. The majority of them have been passed over from the state to the city because they are in disrepair. So the chapel is the only building that has been renovated for the public use, which makes it really exciting. But is also, the reality of there's so many buildings on campus, the majority of them are still occupied by the state, and we won't get those buildings for a couple more years. So the answer to your question is yes, the chapel will need to serve a lot of different roles for us in the community, but it's the first and only building that's publicly accessible at this point.
I mean, I could say for most of the people I know, my friends and stuff, I don't think they really understand the difference between the city of Raleigh and the Park Conservancy. They just kind of see it as it's a park, and I don't really know. I mean, I think the Conservancy does a pretty good job educating, but unless you look for it, it's not really, I don't think, if I asked a random person right now, do you know the difference in the Park Conservancy and the city of Raleigh Park Department? I don't think they would really have much to say about it. And most of what I hear specifically is just, if you live nearby, is the road improvements going to affect your house? The things that people like the flowers or the special events, are they going to continue happening? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eric. The Conservancy model, the Conservancy for a park model, is not necessarily new across the country, but is definitely new in the Raleigh context. And that's probably one thing that is causing some, it's not misinformation. It's just we don't have a full grasp of it. We're not familiar with the concept. So I think I think building on that and providing some really clear and digestible differences, if that's a desire of the city and the Conservancy, is a good thought.
Security or conflict, if that should arise.
In what way, Danny?
I don't know. You know, I see road rage quite often these days. And then there's certain issues around space. You know, I mean, I don't know. I think we need a lot of healing all over the place, and maybe this will never come up at all. But if someone comes over and is disruptive, I guess it's just move on and get away from it. But I didn't know if the city will patrol that on a regular basis, or will, you know, what happens. Maybe it's nothing to think about at all right now. You know, but just I know in every location, you know, there's just always the potential for something to come up. And just be ready for it, just in case. I mean, hopefully you never use it at all, but you know, you just want to.
Yeah, understood. So Eric, I don't know how you introduced this. Did you start with endorsements? So kind of the more positive things about what the park and what the partnership is doing well, because we wanted to split. We wanted to hear the positive things, but we also want to hear any of the negative feedback. So Cecilia, maybe your comment about this community not knowing about the park and not being familiar, you know, it's not necessarily a negative piece, but that's something that we're hoping to say. We kind of know that in what we're working, and our marketing team is aware of that, but it's a great reminder to just say, hey, we have some gaps in knowledge of the park, and it's really simple to just put something together and address to them. So that's kind of stuff is what we're hoping to hear.
Yeah, but the first step to attract more Latino community, I will say, is make them ask to feel welcome to the park. And I told this before, and having the sign just in English, it's not a good time. It's not a good welcoming the Latino community. I know that it's expensive, and it requires a lot of more space. And if you put it in Spanish, maybe you have to put it in Chinese, you have to put it in thousands of different languages, which is not possible. But there are technologies. I attend a conference about accessibility, and I saw an app that with your phone, you click in something that is there in an icon that was there, and tell you what is the sign of, what the sign say, in any language that you want to hear. Wow. And that helped with the people that that have a problem to read, to see the sign, and also with people who speak a different language. I know it is expensive. It is an investment. It is an investment that they have to, the park have to do, but really to attract people from different background, different race, different language, you have to feel them welcome.
Cecilia, I was wondering what you hear about the soccer fields. I feel like there's always like that's a great place of engagement. There's all those giant free soccer fields at Dorothea Dix.
I know that soccer fields attract a lot of Latino. I've been in the one Perry Creek, the soccer field. There is also a huge park in Buffalo Road that is full of Latinos all the time. I haven't heard about the one in Dix Park, but it's a good catch.
Yeah.
If you promote that and involve the Spanish-speaking media, access, promote events, promote what's going on at the Dix Park. And I'm sure if the people know what is going on, that it's a free space. know how beautiful it is and feel welcome, I'm sure we'll be there.
Yeah, Cecilia, it's such a good reminder. We feel so accomplished with our signage project because we've been working on it for a number of years. But it's not enough that it's not going the extra step in welcoming more people in, and that's a point that I recognize, and I hear that from you. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. And again, the comment that I made on the break room before, if you give me the information, I will love to share with the people around me, at least the people around me, to see what they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is Diane. I know how hard it is to bring information to people. It can be really frustrating sometimes. You know, you got all this great information and you do whatever mechanisms that you know, but there's still the majority of people that don't really know what's going on. And I'm just learning about the Dorothea Dix Park myself, but I'm wondering if you know, as far as marketing and information goes, whether there could be additional signage that sort of gives a vision of the park in the park. I mean, I'm at the dog park and there's a lot of people, they don't know anything about that. That's going to be the main gateway into the park or, you know, anything like that. So having additional signage, maybe in different areas of the park, you know, just to sort of give people a broad stroke of the future here. It's one of the things that I could think of as far as outreach goes.
Yeah, we have I think a difficulty in the signage planning is we want the content to continue to be relevant and correct over time. And as these projects change and evolve, the Plaza and Play project is in design and will evolve over time, and different pieces of information would be critical there. One of the things that I think that we can do, maybe Grayson knows more about this, that we've done at different points is, you know, flyers that we can update. We can put a box at some of the points that are of interest. So for instance, the dog park, and we can have an FAQ document that's for spring of 2021. And we can say, hey, this is what's happening at the park. This is how to get involved in the design. This is our idea on where the dog park might be and what might be in it. And then we could just update those flyers as the needs change. And that would be something super simple. Just put that on. We already have like a little cube. If you've been out there, you've seen our cubes that exist to kind of for information sharing. And we've used them similarly in this way to advertise events. But that's something we definitely could do more of the on-site information sharing, not stuff that you just go online, but when you're at the park, how can you learn about what's happening?
Do you guys have any QR code stuff around there that people can access? You know, like a poster, or if there's signage that maybe has a QR code that somebody can, you know, click on and go get more information, even if you highlighted it there, that might be something to do. So it's like if they want more information, they can, you know, be directed to somewhere else.
Yes, Grayson, we have QR codes on the new signage that was installed. Correct.
You do? Okay, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay.
No, that's a good point. And that's something that we can update more easily than the actual signs themselves, right? The QR codes, if the content's on our website, we can provide updated stuff. So no, that's a good point.
And there are inexpensive options of continuously updating signs, you know, even like those yard signs on metal stakes with the QR code, and you could just update them as things change and not have them everywhere, but just a few key locations. And those are like, you know, $40 and just pop one out every year or so to update people.
Maybe I can call in Grayson to, how are you kind of doing the marketing specifically for the Plaza Play area? Are you addressing some of these in what you're doing now?
Yeah, a few things that I'll mention is when we've had our big public meetings for Plaza and Play, we've had large vinyl banners printed, and attach them in 3 to 4 different areas around the park, usually on the cubes that are out there. So the one at the dog park, or actually for the area by the dog park, we just put it right by the entrance to the fence. But there's the cube that's on Hunt Drive. And so we attach one there, and also in the cube on the big field. Those are kind of ways to advertise something that's coming up to the foot traffic that's out at the park. Our hope was, we didn't really hear whether or not this was successful, but we've also done like real estate, like yard signs out at the park for various things. And our hope was with doing the vinyl banners that it was easier to see when you're going by in your car or even as a pedestrian versus the size of the real estate signs. So I guess, you know, those things to say, we're kind of experimenting with this as we go, is what's the best way to share information with people as things evolve and change throughout time. I'd also be curious, your thoughts on social media. So I guess this question has a couple of parts to it, you know, just your reaction on getting information from social media. So the other thing is that the city parks, Dix Park has its own social media accounts, as does the Conservancy. And we try and do a lot of coordination and cross promotion there, but curious how you feel about getting information through social media. And if you know that the city and the Conservancy each have their own channels. And Nick, I guess with that question too, has the conversation kind of gone away from our original question of where we are?
I don't think so. The park perception piece, I think, is tied up into the social media accounts, and how people are receiving the information, I think, is totally fair game.
I mean, I follow the social media accounts and I think they're great, but they are a little bit in a vacuum, you know, like unless you're looking for them, you're not going to really, I don't think you guys do like paid ads with them or anything. And I just think maybe there should be more cross-pollination with kind of like bloggers and stuff on Instagram who do like local Raleigh events like Raleigh Today or What's Up Raleigh. Like I get a lot of these, I follow a lot of these people who tell me kind of what's going on in local events, and you know, there's always a good way to reach a larger audience. Mm-hmm. Also with the banners, I think using them on the cubes are great, but it doesn't have a lot of visibility. So I was wondering maybe putting more banners or more signs near like Western or near Centennial, just more near the major roadways where people might be like, oh, there's something going on, rather than people who already engaged with the park seeing it secondly.
That's a really good idea. I'll have to, the cubes are really easy and convenient, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing what you suggested with Western Boulevard and Centennial.
I think talking about partnership, as the first area to be developed is the park and play, have a partnership with marbles. Ask them, ask the kids. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter, and the first time that I was looking at the park, I asked her, what would you like to see in a park? Mm-hmm. And she was so excited. And when I have the meeting, she said, are you having a meeting about the park? I said, yes, I have the meeting with the park. And I showed her the picture, and she was so excited about the park. And I was so proud when I visit the park. I say, you see, Ceci, this is the park that we work together. And those are the ideas that you gave me. So those little people, they're amazing. They have some kind of wisdom. And maybe have workshop with the kids in marbles. This is a terrible word, but use them. Use little kids that have these amazing ideas. I don't know, make them to draw something, or I don't know. But I think a partnership with marbles will be a very, very good to have input about what the kids and the parents need.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, just extrapolate even more like City of Raleigh or North Carolina properties like the museums, City of Raleigh Museum, you know, History Museum, like kind of go to where.
Museum of Science, exactly. Yeah. All those museums that are full of kids. Well, I don't know now if they're really open and full of kids. But when the kids are free to go to any places, I'm sure they will be full of kids.
Mhm.
And
Or even
sharing
existing
info-
parks that are popular, like Pullen Park.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Some kind of a trolley on the weekends, something to sort of go around the area. Seasonal, Trey mentioned something about the creek restoration. Is that something that you'd have to walk to, or is there some easier way for mobility challenged people to get to see that?
Danny, it was a little bit hard to hear on the first part of the trolley.
Yeah.
Question. You want to ask that part again?
No, it's just I didn't know on the weekends during the summer sometimes when there might be a good crowd and there might be things at different places on the park. And some people just like to ride somewhere. They'll go there and park. But to get from one place to another, if you have to move your car, that's a little bit more than people might want to do. But I didn't know if there was anything enough set up around that someone might want to take a trolley on the 30-minute little trip somewhere around to see different things. It may not work. I was just something.
Yeah. I think there's probably enough for people to see right now. And obviously that's only going to grow. I really like the idea of just, let's say, having a trolley Saturday, and from 8 to 8, it just runs in a loop and people can pick up and get on and ride for as long as they want. And I think that's an excellent idea. We have to figure out our long-term plan for internal movement around the park. So kind of testing that with something that would be easy to set up is really cool. The creek question, the second part of accessing the creek project, there's nothing to see just yet, and there won't be for a couple years. There is a greenway entrance that has a couple accessible spots that's on grade, and that's the easiest way to see, the closest place to see the creek work. But that will be something that we'll address in the design to make sure that that's included as well.
I also wanted to respond to the asking and engaging children. We do have a for Plaza Play. We have an upcoming youth workshop where we're using the Raleigh, I'm sorry, the official name of it, but it's like a teen core. We have an engagement meeting with them next month. Planning for teens is often a hard thing to do with design and events. So I'm excited to ask them what they will want to do in Plaza and Play. I also wanted to mention that during the master plan, Nick was actually very heavily involved with this. As we did a lot of engagement with the Raleigh summer camps, where we brought them out to the park and engaged with them on what they would like to do. And we have done a few things with marbles, for instance, at the beginning of the Plaza Play design. And that was really in the thick of quarantine. But we sent out an activity through Raleigh day camps, and then also marbles, asking kids for their feedback of what they like to do outside. And I agree, they are quite the resource, and it's one of my favorite ways to engage through the planning. But appreciate the ideas of even just putting up signage at local museums and things. I took my kids to the Science Museum in Raleigh on Good Friday, and there were people there. So I think we can start doing that, certainly.
Any concerns, negativity around the park or the park project? And I really don't want to make y'all feel like you need to manufacture negativity, because we don't need that. But as a safe space to hear if there's anything that we as the staff of the park work on this on a daily basis should know about the perception in the community. And I can prompt a little bit. There's some discussions about park funding. There's some discussions about neighborhood change. There's just some discussion about what happens in the design, all things that people in the community have opinions on. And we hear at different points from folks that they support the activities, that they don't feel involved, that they don't like the vision. And, we try to be really responsive to that. But this group, as our insiders, we want to make sure that we're providing a space for y'all to give that information to us as well.
I think there is some tension between the people who are early adopters of the park when it was pretty much like lawless, and they loved that freedom. Like people were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, drinking alcohol, letting their dogs run, the drones, people were just kind of utilizing the space for whatever they weren't really allowed to use somewhere else. And I think there's a little bit of resistance from that diehard group of people who've been using it for years about all the structure and all of these rules being implemented. And I think you just have to be able to reach out to these people who love the park and say, these are good changes. And overall, we're still going to try to preserve some of that spirit of the park of exploration, of mystery. It's not going to be, I hate to keep using this example, but it's not going to be more square, or it's just kind of like a little sterile, where Dix was almost the opposite. So I think we have to kind of keep that a little bit.
And just tough.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole comment there.
Well, I have the park on Facebook, and I was really surprised to see still some kind of bad feelings about the park, about the past, how we move all the people that were in the facility that were there, how the park won't respect the past, and I really was in shock. I mean, I heard about those issues at the beginning, the negotiation between the park and the state and all these other people that wants that amazing land. But read about those kind of negative comments still now, I was really surprised. I thought that the majority of the people in the city were happy with the project, but I was really surprised. I am happy with the project.
And Cecilia, sorry, where were you seeing, were these just on some social media stuff that you saw? Was that something specific?
I saw that on Facebook.
On Facebook. Was it a certain event that you were looking on, or just kind of some of the stuff that we've posted?
As it was a post, and somebody make negative comment about
I got
about the project. But also, I would like to be so happy and proud that I am a part of this committee in any space. But if somebody else try to say negative stuff, I would love to have enough information to don't engage in a negative conversation, but at least try to change this kind of that other person idea of what is going on in the park.
Yeah. So that's a good reminder. We've at a couple different points have put together a frequently asked questions, or FAQ document. That's some of the difficult questions that we hear. So some of the more common things: why did the hospital close? Did this plantation have enslaved people? And some of the responses that we've written up. So that can be a good reminder to share that back out to you to use. And then next obvious thing, translate that document so that it can be shared with people as well, obviously. Yeah, we hear there's people that have really strong emotional connections, whether they spent time or a family member or individually at the hospital, and when the hospital closed, they didn't feel involved in the process. They didn't like the direction. They don't feel like adequate care is provided in other places. And that emotion that they feel from that has not gone away. It's still really strong when they hear about things happening at the park. And that's just one example. But we hear from people that have similar kind of thoughts. We do see some of the social media, probably not all of the responses on social media. And we hear it in other ways as well, but we hear some of that stuff too.
And I think if the people post something that is negative, have somebody to respond to them in a nice way. No engage in the bad discussion, but try to explain that what happened, try to show them the benefit that the park will bring to the city and the community and the state. But say something. Don't just let the people vent and be unhappy.
Right.
I mean, just real quick, the number one thing is education. You know, it's still just, will this ultimately benefit the area, or will it just make it more expensive? And there's nothing we can really do about that, but I don't know, just some sort of assurances that at least we're trying, you know, the best we can to try to preserve the communities around the park.
Sorry, Danny. Unfortunately, we're going to get cut off. I couldn't hear you, and they're going to kick us out of these rooms. Thanks, everybody, for your time. All right, welcome back. Got a couple final items to wrap up. Hope these conversations went well, and look forward to reading some of the notes that staff has been taking to share out. I am going to share my screen again real quickly and ask Joey on our team to talk about some of our spring programming and volunteer opportunities that we have for the community.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Nick said. Thanks for everybody's feedback. The conversation in the group I was in was great. I hope you guys had a great conversation around the topics. We are deep into spring programming, and I can tell you the community's response to programming has been very high. A lot of the programs that we're putting out right now are filling very quickly, which means the community is really interested in getting back in person in a safe way and participating in things that we're offering at the park and seeing other people. So you can see Nick put up on the screen, we're offering a variety of fitness and wellness classes through our Monday, Wednesday yogas and our Thursday Tai Chis. We're offering regular walking tours of the park with Adam, a volunteer at the park, who's talking about the history of the site and kind of the future vision. We're doing different preschool programs, and then just talk about a couple of the things that have been really popular this past Saturday. You may have seen Ernie Dollar from the Raleigh City Museum led a Civil War history hike, which was well attended and very popular. Really talked about the Civil War encampment and the Civil War history on the park site. We started our youth yoga programs this past Saturday, which had a lot of attendance. So really, as we're kind of coming up and cultivating and activating the park, we're looking for experiences that draw all different ages, all different backgrounds, and everything that we do. So I would encourage you, if you're looking to get out, if you feel safe to do so, if you want to participate in any of these things, visit dixpark.org/calendar. All of those opportunities are there. I'll tell you, registration for all programs open a week in advance. That really helps us manage who's registering, making sure people are showing up to these free programs. People aren't registering too far in advance and then holding a spot and then never attending because programs are so popular. So just know if you're looking to attend a program or a walking tour or anything that's coming up, that registration opens a week in advance. Also, just foreshadowing a couple things that are coming up over the summer. We're getting ready to announce our Acorn live music series, which will be happening over the summer. We'll really be focusing on different local artists and musicians starting to activate the park, just bringing music, starting to build community back. We'll be announcing other things that are happening over the summer that are going to just, now that we have a little more flexibility in gathering limits, that we can start to really expand the opportunities that we have going on. And also just more opportunities happening at the chapel. We've been offering a Saturday morning art program with our partnership through Art Space, which has reached maximum very quickly every time, and those programs are going great, and you'll be seeing more programmatic opportunities coming out of the chapel as well. Along with it, soon we'll be announcing opportunities on how you could rent that space if you wanted to host your own program, your own event there as well. So lots of information will be coming out about all of these things soon. I'll also make a quick plug for if you are interested in volunteer opportunities at the park. I know a lot of you signed up to be on this community committee because when you wanted to give back to the park, we're offering all sorts of different volunteer opportunities. Every month we have a community volunteer opportunity at the park that is announced. We've been doing lots of litter pickups and mulching and all of those aspects. Also with sunflowers this summer, we're going to be looking for sunflower ambassadors to help us at the sunflower field, to help to educate the public about just being safe when visiting sunflowers this summer. As a lot of us know, sunflowers draw a lot of people, and we need help just making sure that people are just educated and following those COVID safety rules. So we're really going to be asking this committee and others to help us kind of be ambassadors for folks and educate people as they're visiting sunflowers. So be on the lookout for that information and other volunteer opportunities that will be coming out that I'll make sure to share with Nick so he can get out to the community committee. Because again, like I said, I know a lot of you are really interested in being a part of this group to give back to the park, and volunteering and being part of what's going on at the park is a really great way to do that. So more information to come. Like I said, check out dixpark.org/calendar. That's where everything that we're offering at the park is located. And you can find information there. And if you have any questions about any of those items, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. I got a feeling that Bill Paget wants to be a sunflower ambassador. I think I can tell by his reaction on the screen. One point that I meant to mention earlier, we're going to transition our either the next meeting or the meeting after to kind of a blended virtual and in-person meeting. So more details to come for those who will feel comfortable joining us in person. We'll have a safe way to do that at our chapel facility. We will still obviously offer a virtual attendance to the meeting, and there'll be no difference in the activities. We'll design that so it's accessible for both users. So with that, I'm going to ask Jay to close us out.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you guys so much. And if you did not jot down everything Joey said, don't worry. It's in the newsletter and you will get it tomorrow. So it will be spelled out for you and you can just print it or keep it. So that way you have that, but we did want to make sure you were excited about what's in the newsletter and you'd actually read it. So we wanted to give you a taste of it. That being said, just thank you guys so much again for your time. Thank you for committing to be a part of this group and supporting the various task forces. The questions we asked today, they're not just for today. So as we think about what draws people in, what do visitors do, and what do we need to do to enhance the park, those are ongoing questions that we're constantly asking. And so as you're working with your circles of influence and your friends and your communities, please ask those questions to them and bring that back to us. If you haven't taken someone new out to Dix Park, the weather's great. Try to do that. There's a ton of time to get out there. The Citrix bikes are great. The electric ones are really helpful when you're trying to go up that hill. So I recommend those. And lastly, like we said, our park is got the eyes of a lot of people. It is, there's a reason we have put equity at the front of our committee work. And today is another reminder why that's critically important. And so I thank you all for spending time with us today. I know that, there's a lot on our minds, and I appreciate that you all were able to focus and give to us in the city in a meaningful way. And I'm just grateful for that. And I'll close this with some words Nick Neptune said in my group, because he's always a much better and eloquent speaker than any of us. And it's just, don't be afraid to embrace history and share it with others and be authentic about it. So thank you guys.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon.